Hey, welcome back. So in today's video, I want to cover Toyotas and the different chips, the blades, and the frequencies when it comes to programming and finding out what works, what doesn't work. The whole goal of this, kind of like I did like for the Hyundais and Kias, is to problem solve so we're not wasting our time, the customer's time, or wasting inventory. So let's kind of jump into this. So hypothetically, a customer walks up with this, like a standard key, maybe a valet key, or a master key, and they say, hey, I want a remote or I want a combo key like what my friend has. How to kind of go about figuring out what they need and what's going to work for their vehicle and kind of go from there. The whole purpose is we don't want to lose inventory or upsell and look like slimy or like super salesy, if that makes sense. We just want to be very clear and open with the customer and let them know like, hey, let me figure out what works for your vehicle and we'll kind of go from there. So let's kind of jump into what we have on all the different keys and get started. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the setup, or I guess the scenarios which we would encounter. So the tools we'll be using would be standard factory keys, factory chips, Xhorse, the Smart Pro or your programming tool, and then like your information. So let's just say a customer's like, hey, I have this key, I want to get a remote for it. What do you have to offer? We're going to use our presenter and we're going to find out, oh, it can either A, be a key like this, or if it's like a Tundra Tacoma, it's pretty common, or if it's like a Sienna. But what you want to do is kind of find out, okay, that's going to be for the older vehicles. What about if it's newer vehicles? That's where we want to know the make, model, and year, so we can kind of fine tune old or new. But what you want to do is, instead of trying to upsell this and then saying, yeah, this is going to work for you for your truck, let me go ahead and cut and program this. So if you cut this to match their key and then you go to program this and it doesn't work, then you just lost inventory. So it's not the ideal thing. So what you want to do is get your programmer, like your Smart Pro, and you're going to look for that vehicle. And like, let's just say it's a Camry. You want to program the remote first. So even though it's a second drop-down option, you want to program the remote first. And that's going to be very simple. So you're going to hold the buttons, it's going to program. So if this remote programs, then great. So you have their working key and that. It works, then you're going to go ahead and cut it. And then you're going to go ahead and program that immobilizer and you're done. Now sometimes you're going to see, if they went to like a locksmith or some other place, you'll see a dot chip, but then a G chip blade works. Sometimes just the blades are different because the insides are switched out because of X, Y, or Z. Who knows? So that's where you want to try to program the remote first. Now let's just say hypothetically, it's going to be they have this key and they want this, and the remote works, but then when you cut the blade and you try to program the immobilizer, it doesn't work. What are you going to do? Are you going to throw this away or like scrap it? No. What you're going to do is use your Xhorse. You're going to scan this and you're going to see, oh, it's going to be this type of key. Let me put that down. So say if this is a dot and this is a dot, and you look on here and it's going to say, okay, a dot is a Toy Key 700. It's a 4067. So you scan this and you see that's a 4067. You're like, cool. And then you scan this one from like your inventory, and let's just say it's a 4D plus. And you're like, oh, take the chip out and put in the 67. I have extra spares because I've cloned so many over the years. Cool. I pop that in. I'm not using another Xhorse chip. Pop this in here. So now they're matching, and then I can go ahead and program like normal. I'm saving $3. Cool. So that's what you would do. So at the end of the day, they have a working key that the dot or the blade matches and it works. So I've noticed that a lot. Like if we look at like a Tundra or like the RAV4s, you're going to have the newer type. And sometimes like for the RAV4, you have 4 different keys, 4 different frequencies, or the FCC IDs. So you're going to have a whole bunch of information. And how you go about that is you would first program the remote. Just program the remote and see what sticks, what works. Verify, make sure it works, lock, and panic and everything. And then you go ahead and you cut and program. But again, if you just jump into it and you cut the blade and then you assume it. You make an ass out of you and me. And then the customer's like, dude, what's taking so long? Because now you're trying to figure out why it's not working and it just looks dumb. So the whole goal is you kind of want to try and prep before. So if you really wanted to, you can take, like, say, both of these if you're not sure. Say if they have a weird looking aftermarket key, it's not a factory key. Take both of these to the vehicle, attempt to program this one, attempt to program this one. If this one works, cool. Put this one back in the bag, put it back in inventory, and proceed with this one, and then you're good. You really don't want to switch the remote modules because then it just gets really messy for inventory. So don't do that. But do that. So if you go to the vehicle, you're going to spend 6 seconds on that, 6 seconds on that. This one works, cool. Bag this one, come back, cut it, go program that chip, and you're done. And you're looking at a 10-minute process compared to cutting, trying it's not working, then coming back, switching parts, this and that. That's going to be the most effective way. Now, when you look at for these remotes, they're going to have basically the same frequency for like these two. But I've never tried putting a Tundra remote on like a Sienna or vice versa. Technically, it's the same frequency, the megahertz, all that stuff, and the FCC ID. But it just wouldn't make sense to try to upsell this to a customer for their Tundra because they don't have the doors. So things like that, don't do weird stuff. It just doesn't make sense. And then, like, the older remotes, they're not going to work with the newer type vehicles. This is like for the old 4Runners and things like that. So hopefully that makes sense when it comes to problem solving. So at the end of the day, you are spending very little time, I guess, catching yourself in, trying not to like fall or lose inventory, and you're able to like problem solve. So I guess tips for that would be save all your chips. Don't ever throw your chips away. And you'll watch my videos. I always have chips here. I go through like a couple chips a day here and there. I later put them back and I sort them and I scan them. Use your Xhorse to get your frequencies, to scan your keys, and then you're really good. Cool. Other than that, have a great day. And oh yeah, make sure you check the links below for any other videos related to like the Toyotas or like the Hyundai one. If you're having the same issues with Toyotas, you might have the same issues with Hyundais and Kias. So cool. Other than that, have a great day, and I will chat with you later. Thanks. Bye.